Today I'm talking about dinosaurs. Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. I heard that June 1st is National Dinosaur Day, so I thought it would be fun to share some of my favorite books and resources about dinosaurs. First, I'm going to show curriculum that we've used in our homeschool when we were learning paleontology. This one is from The Good and the Beautiful. It is one of their science unit studies. It's pretty short and it's grades 3 through 8. And we also use the master books, Elementary Paleontology and Dinosaurs. This says 4th through 6th grade. It is elementary, but we actually used it for my daughters when they were teenagers. And so some of the younger activities and worksheets we didn't do, but we aged it up a bit, but we still did read the books that they had recommended for it. And we really enjoyed this. I actually would say that I recommend this one over The Good and the Beautiful. We liked this one a lot better. Now I'm going to share some of our picture books that we used during that unit and that have been some of our favorites through the years. Some of these match our worldview and some do not. And I also know that I am missing a few because we have quite a few books about dinosaurs from Usborne Books, but they are packed away still until our basement is finished. I'm just going to show the ones that we have used since we packed away those books, so that's the reason these ones are not packed away. When Sue Found Sue by Tony Buzzio. This tells a story of when Sue Hendrickson found her T-Rex. This has pretty cute illustrations. We used to live in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and we would go to Chicago a lot to go to the museums. And so we saw the T-Rex skull of Sue in the Field Museum. And so this was a fun book for us to read after having seen that in person. A Little Golden Book, The Little Dinosaur. This was one of my favorite books when I was a little kid. I even wrote in it. And this tells the story of a little boy who finds a dinosaur friend in a cave. It's a really cute little story and one that I read over and over again as a child. Along with The Good and the Beautiful Science Unit, we got the Ultimate Dinosaur Guide. This is just full of different dinosaurs with information about them. So I think it's a really good resource. Also, just for clarification, The Good and the Beautiful Science Unit, and so I believe the books that they had with it follow the same thing. They don't take a young Earth worldview. They leave that part open to your viewpoint. So you can teach it either way. It just gives the facts that would be believed on either end of that. Dinosaurs for Little Kids, Where Did They Go? By Ken Ham. I picked this one up at the Creation Museum. It's just got a cute little story of some little kids who visit this fossil hall or dinosaurium and have the woman who tells them all about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs by Design. This is by Dwayne T. Gish. And this was one of the ones that we used with the Master Books curriculum. And it's very textbooky. It just gives a lot of information about different kinds of dinosaurs and meat eating, plant eating, etc. And so it's a pretty informative book, very long on text. So this is one you would probably want to either give to older kids or read with them. We also used Dinosaurs of Eden. Did Adam and Noah Live with Dinosaurs? This is also by Ken Ham. And this is also a very textual book. It's got less text than the other one did, but it's still got quite a bit of text. It's got great pictures and a lot of information for, obviously these Ken Ham ones are with a young Earth worldview. And then Dinosaurs for Kids, also by Ken Ham. This pretty much covers a lot of the same information the other ones do, except this one is broken into 7 categories throughout the book: formed, fearless, fallen, flood, fated, found, and fiction. And so all the information fits into one of those categories. The last one that we used for the master books was Dragons of the Deep, written by Carl Weiland. And this is the dinosaurs that would have been in the ocean. It's also another kind of old one. And then 2 that are picture books that we enjoyed, but they definitely have the old Earth worldview. I don't really mind having that. I prefer young Earth because that is my worldview, but I feel like it is important that my kids know both so that they can, one, make up their own mind about it, but also to understand where other people are coming from and why the plaques in the museum say what they say, and just be more well informed. And so I don't mind having it, and it leads to discussion every time. If you were teaching your kids young Earth or old Earth, and then you were giving your kids only material that had the opposite worldview and you never had discussions, that could be confusing. So I think it is important to make sure that you have discussions. So we have Barnum's Bones. This is by Tracy Fern, and this tells the story of Barnum Brown and how he discovered the most famous dinosaur in the world. And it's just got, a lot of illustrations, some that are cuter than others. And then Dinosaur Lady. It says the daring discoveries of Mary Anning, the first paleontologist. I think this one has probably the cutest illustrations of these picture books, in my opinion. They're just very old-fashioned looking and tell her story. They also have some information at the back about her and about paleontology, and then a timeline of her life. Then some nonfiction that we've really enjoyed. This one also we used with our Master Books curriculum, The Great Alaskan Dinosaur Adventure. This is by Buddy Davis, Mike Liston, and John Whitmore, and this is basically the travel journal of them going to Alaska to look for dinosaur bones. And there were a lot of things I didn't know about that part of Alaska in this book. It was pretty interesting, so that was worth the read. And then I really enjoyed The Great Dinosaur Mystery Solved by Ken Ham. This says a biblical view of these amazing creatures, and I would say that this is a really good jumping off point if you want to learn more about a young Earth worldview when it comes to dinosaurs. And now I'm going to share the fiction books that we own. I have quite a few books that have to do with dinosaurs and paleontology, but I'm probably missing some. There are probably books on my shelves. I know that there's books from Answers in Genesis that touch on dinosaurs, but I didn't pull any of those down since it wasn't the primary subject of the books. And I'm sure there's other books on my shelves that I'm just not remembering that there were dinosaurs or paleontology in them. So I'm just going to share these ones, and there's still quite a few of them. The Totally True Adventures, Finding the First T-Rex. This also tells the story of Barnum Brown, like the picture book. And we have really enjoyed these Totally True Adventures. They're very short little books, but they give a lot of information for how short these books are. And I loved every single one of these that we've read. This is a series, I guess, duology. It's 2 books. The Edge of Extinction, The Ark Plan is book 1, and Edge of Extinction, Codename Flood. These are both by Linda Martin. And in the first book, it is some kids who live underground. When people brought back dinosaurs, like in Jurassic Park, they had illnesses that humans were no longer immune to. And so everybody went underground. So many people died because of these illnesses and because of the dinosaurs being dangerous. And so people have gone down underground and built these entire huge bunkers with classrooms and dorms and all sorts of things underground. And a couple of kids decide that they want to see what is outside. They believe there's something more, and one of them is missing a parent. The kids get out. They find out that outside their underground bunker is not quite the way that they have been told it is, and they have to deal with a lot of dinosaurs as well. Since my daughters enjoy manga, I got these Dinosaur Sanctuary mangas. We have book 1 and book 2, and these tell the story of a girl who wants to work in this dinosaur sanctuary. So she has to go and try to get a job there, and then it's just the adventures of them, of her and the people that she works with there. And I've read both of them before I let my daughters have them, and I think they're really well done. We haven't read any farther in the series yet, only these first 2 books, but so far they've been really good. Next is the Aggie Morton Mystery Queen, The Seaside Corpse. This is book 4. Aggie and her friend Hector go to Lyme Regis to watch some paleontologists in action. And if you haven't read these yet, she is supposed to be like a young Agatha Christie, and he's like Hercule Poirot. Next is The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In this book, Ed Malone invites Professor Challenger on his next expedition to this place that they believe might have dinosaurs, and tells the adventure of that expedition. In this cover, this kind of reminds me of Jurassic Park when Ian Malcolm has the torch with the T-Rex. I really enjoyed the story. Probably didn't like it as much as Sherlock, but I don't know. I really liked it, and it's a decent sized book, but it went pretty fast. Next would have to be the obvious, Jurassic Park and The Lost World by Michael Crichton. And I think almost everybody knows the story of Jurassic Park, where they bring back dinosaurs using their DNA. And The Lost World is some of them going back to the island again. These are very well-loved, well-read copies that I've had for a long time. It's probably time to get new ones. It doesn't get much better if you love reading about dinosaurs. This one is also by Michael Crichton. This is Dragon Teeth. This book is actually was written before Jurassic Park, but this didn't come out until after his death. And in this, it tells the story of the Bone Wars. And so you really get a good introduction to what was happening between competing teams trying to find dinosaur bones. This was actually, I believe, my introduction, the first book I ever read about bone wars, which got me interested in them. And so I really enjoyed this. I was worried at first, since it came out after his death, whether it would feel like his earlier books did, and it did. And then there is the Treasures of the Earth series by Kimberly Woodhouse. The first book, Secrets Beneath, and the second, Set in Stone. I've talked about these both on my channel recently. I was told these were going to be about the Bone Wars as well, which was the main reason I wanted to check them out. And the first one was disappointing to me a little bit because I didn't feel like it really was about the Bone Wars as much as I didn't really feel like it touched on paleontology as much as it should have. But I still enjoyed the story for the most part. But Set in Stone I really loved. I felt like it had enough of the outside of the paleontology story to maybe interest people who aren't as interested in dinosaurs and paleontology, but it also had enough of that actually in it, and seeing two teams competing. And so I highly recommend this one. And you actually don't have to have read the first one if you want to read the second one. I think it's still worth it to read both, but if you're not sure, I would read the second one. And those are probably the only ones out of all of those that have the young Earth worldview. And these ones also do. The last ones I'm going to mention are the Truth Chronicles. There are 10 books in this series. This is by Tim Chaffey and Joe Westbrook. And at some point during the series, it becomes just Tim Chaffey writing them. I read these aloud with my daughters, and they have the manga anime style artwork in them, and so that really appealed to my daughters since they like that kind of thing. This is about 4 kids who, one of them is a very strong Christian girl, and the other 3 are either not Christian or aren't very strong in the faith. They all go to a science school together. I did a video highlighting this whole series. It's really good. They're short books. They're easy to read. They're action-packed. They're fun. I liked all of the kids in it. And there are some heavier topics, so maybe a little bit older of kids, unless you want to read them out loud or read them first and see if your kids can handle them. But there are some heavier topics in it, but I highly recommend this series. So obviously, paleontology, dinosaurs, I don't know why I'm so into them, but I have been for as long as I can remember. It definitely is one of my buzzwords. If you know any great books that have to do with dinosaurs, paleontology, the bone wars, any of these things I've talked about, I would love it if you would let me know in the comments.